What's going on, everybody? Welcome back on Hot Mike Sports. I have a huge video planned for you guys today. It should be the longest on the channel so far. So if you're not in long videos, I apologize. But we're going to be recapping all of NBA free agency and the trades that updated up until 5 p.m. on day 2 of NBA free agency. So I have a ton of stuff to talk about. I'll give you the best available, the most notable signings, my opinions on the signings, and the actual facts of the signings, of course. So if you'd like more NBA content, I'm definitely going to be keeping up with free agency, all the trades that happen, and then, of course, the NFL. If you think you would enjoy that, make sure you subscribe. I'm definitely dropping daily bangers for you guys. And like the video if you enjoy this one. So I'm not going to waste much more time. We're going to get straight into the video. I want to mention the best available guys so far. Like I said, it's 5 p.m. Central Time. The best available now are Anthony Davis, who, just so you know, he's like 99% going back to the Lakers. He just said he wants to restructure his max deal. It's looking to be a max. It's just he wants to restructure the length and things like that. I believe it'll be like a 2-year deal plus 1 player option, or a 1-year plus 1 player option if he decides to go that route. I think it'll match up a lot with LeBron, obviously. Other than that, I left out the restricted free agents on this list, like Brandon Ingram. He's going to be brought back. Like they're just going to match any offer. So whatever happens to Brandon Ingram, it doesn't matter. He's going to be a Pelican. So unrestricted free agents, the best available are Anthony Davis, Serge Ibaka, Tristan Thompson, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Serge Ibaka is probably the most highly sought after right now in the market. There are reports that 28 teams are engaged on deals with Serge Ibaka that want a deal with Serge Ibaka, not that he's talking to every team. But the East and the West are definitely both getting involved. And this could be a huge signing. It was rumored that he was going to go to the Lakers, but I'll talk about it in a second. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. I want to get an update on the trade that happened a few nights ago. The biggest trade so far, it was the Jrue Holiday trade. So the updated trade threw in the Nuggets and the Thunder. It was updated on draft night, and I want to recap it for you. So the Bucks got Jrue Holiday and the last pick in the draft, which is Sam Morrell. The Pelicans got Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, and 2 pick swaps and unprotected first-round picks from the Bucks. The Thunder ended up getting George Hill, Darius Miller, 2023 Nuggets protected first-round pick, and 2 seconds. And the Nuggets got R.J. Hampton, which was just the Bucks first-round pick. So pretty much the only real notable thing that happened was the Thunder gave up Steven Adams and got some of the pieces back from the Pelicans. So we're going to jump into the most notable, and then we'll go through every signing. There's definitely, even though the most notable, what I mean by that is just the biggest names, the most anticipated names, and then we'll hop into each signing and re-signing, and then I'll give you guys my opinions on all of that. So Montrezl Harrell signed a 2-year, $19 million deal with the Lakers, and that was obviously the biggest surprise so far. It looked like Harrell was either going to come back or he's going to sign like a bigger deal with like a New York Knicks or a Charlotte Hornets or something of that nature, but he went to the other LA team, which was super surprising, on a really small deal. Turned out to be the mid-level exception that the Lakers used, and they used it on him, and this looks like the perfect offseason for the Lakers. Gordon Hayward got sent to Charlotte on a 4-year, $120 million deal. This was super surprising. He got his bag. He got $30 million a year for the next 4, which a lot of people didn't think would happen. But I can definitely see Charlotte giving it to him. And then it looks like with LaMelo and Gordon Hayward, they're trying to reshape that team. And then Fred VanVleet goes back to Toronto. He was the most anticipated name on the market. He goes back in a 4-year, $85 million deal. Seems like a pretty fair price all around. And then Danilo gets a deal done with Atlanta for 3 years, $61 million. Pretty fair price. Danilo will definitely help out that team, and I want to see if they can make a playoff push. I actually made a video on it earlier, and then they addressed it as I was making the video. And I'm going to talk about it in this re-signing period. It was super duper interesting, and I think the Hawks have a legit chance to really make a playoff push. So we're going to start off just as early as it goes, from 6 p.m. Eastern time yesterday all the way up until now. I'll go through every signing. So the first signing we had was Goran Dragic announced that he was going to re-sign with the Heat. We don't know the details of that re-signing, but he is coming back. And Myers Leonard also said he's re-upping. but we know that this is for 2 years, 20 million. 10-year deal for $10 million a year for Miles Leonard. Seems a little bit much for Miami. We also had a Real Madrid player agree to a 2-year deal with Denver. He's 5'11", just a guard. I'm not sure much about him, so I'm not going to really share my opinion on him. Drew Eubanks for the San Antonio Spurs came back on a 3-year deal. We're not sure the money on that deal. Let's see here. DeMarcus Cousins is getting a lot of attention from teams. We're not sure the details on that, but Woj reports that DeMarcus Cousins is getting a lot of attention. I could definitely see a 1-year deal, a lot like he had in Golden State, where it's like a 1-year, $5 million deal to hopefully resurrect his career. But obviously we've seen that Boogie has had a lot of injuries, and I'm not sure that he'll ever be back really playing basketball again. Mason Plumlee agreed to the deal with the Pistons for 3 years, $25 million. I want you guys to realize, as I'm going to name off some centers that the Pistons have, they signed Plumlee. I'll say Okafor's name in a second. They signed Okafor. They already had Thon Maker. They traded for Dedmon. They drafted Vernon Carey. That's 5 right there. It's ridiculous what the Pistons are doing. I'm totally flabbergasted at what they're doing. Big words, guys. Dwayne Bacon signs a 2-year deal with the Orlando Magic. It's a pretty small deal. Jahlil Okafor, like I said, signing a deal with the Detroit Pistons. Patrick Patterson is coming back to the Clippers on a 1-year deal. Definitely a good pickup for the Clippers. Clarkson just got overpaid, 4 years, $52 million for the Utah Jazz. It's going to be a bench piece. He's a great scorer, awesome scorer, average 15.6. He just has had some injury problems the last few years, and I don't really think this is what the Jazz truly needed. A backup scoring guard when you have Donovan Mitchell. I'm not sure about that, unless you want to move on from Mike Conley and start Clarkson at the 1 or D. Mitch at the 1. I don't really like this signing a ton. De'Aaron Fox agrees to a 5-year max. Derek Favors agrees to go back to Utah on a 3-year, $30 million deal. I only ever saw Derek Favors in a Utah jersey. It was weird when he spent that one season in New Orleans, but he's back on $10 million a year. I wonder why they paid him that much when they had Gobert. Maybe this means that they're not planning to bring back Gobert. Looks like Josh Jackson is going to the Pistons. Hopefully he can keep what he had going. I know last year he was starting to resurrect his career in Memphis, but we'll have to see how that works in Detroit. Hopefully he gets a bigger role. Dwight Howard, this was definitely a weird case. Sorry here, guys. Dwight Howard agreed to a deal with the Lakers, it seemed like. Posted on Twitter, and then he took it down and then agreed to a deal with the Sixers. It seems like it's 1 year, $10 million. Oh no, 1 year, $2.6 million. Which is definitely super weird because he said he wants his money more than anything this year. He's done playing for free, and then he signed the veterans minimum, which he could have done with the Lakers. So that is incredibly surprising to me. That's just incredibly surprising to me. His tweet said, "I'm staying right where I belong. Laker Nation, I love y'all. Purple and gold never gets old." And then he quickly deleted the tweet. Definitely super weird. Rodney Hood goes back to the Portland Trailblazers on 2 years, $21 million. Pretty good signing. Anthony Gill agrees to a 2-year deal with the Wizards. I've never heard of that man. Trey Burke goes back to the Mavericks on a 3-year, $10 million range. So that's a pretty good price, about 3.5 for Trey Burke. That's not bad at all. It's definitely a good pickup for the Mavericks. If Trey Burke can stay healthy, I like him. Malik Beasley goes back to the T-Wolves on a 4-year, $60 million deal. It's definitely a good signing. I wonder what they're going to end up doing with Jarrett Culver, because Anthony Edwards will most likely run the 2 or D'Lo. But that's their 1 and 2 for sure. Ricky Rubio is going to come off the bench. They're obviously going to pay him $18 million this year. And then Culver is their small forward. Can't really run power forward. Neither can Beasley. And Okogie is already a super small power forward. So we'll have to see what they do with Beasley, because 4 years, $60 million to come off the bench seems like a lot. Montrezl Harrell we talked about. Davis Bertans got overpaid for what he does. He's a laser. 5 years, $80 million to return to Washington. I love Davis Bertans. I think he's amazing, and he's a piece that any team wants. But 5 years, $80 million seems like a heck of a lot of money. Alec Burks agrees to a 1 year, $6 million with the Knicks. I'm not going to report on that like that's going to affect anything. Joe Harris signs 4 years, $75 million to Brooklyn. They said that this was their number one priority this offseason, and they finally got him. I feel like Joe Harris is a little bit overpaid for this stage of his career, but he does what he needs to do, and he shoots the ball. Garrett Temple goes to the Chicago Bulls on a 1-year, $5 million deal. We'll talk about the Bulls more, but it seems like they really want to do something this year. Christian Wood goes to the Rockets on a 3-year, $41 million deal. So I'm really confused on what they plan. I feel like they're going to try to go in with Russ, Harden, and now Christian Wood. I really don't think they're going to try to trade because the value for Russ is pretty low. I think they would have had that deal done by now, and I really don't think they want to part ways with Harden. And this is definitely not a rebuilding move. Marcus Morris Sr. goes back to the Clippers on a 4-year, $64 million deal. Overpaid. Definitely affected Montrezl Harrell. Definitely was affected by Montrezl Harrell leaving. Wesley Matthews signs a 1-year, $3.6 million deal to join the Lakers. Huge signing, more shooting. The Lakers are having a perfect offseason. Justin Holiday agrees to $18 million over 3 years with the Indiana Pacers. Sure, seems fair, bringing in some defense. And then we get to today. Jeremiah Grant signs 3 years, $60 million with the Pistons. Grant's a great player. I really think that the Nuggets needed to keep him. But $20 million a year, yeah, Detroit, you can have him. You can have him. There was a trade that happened, but a few of these trades happened, but none of these were really significant. But in case you wanted to know, Dallas Mavericks get James Johnson from OKC. Pistons get DeLon Wright, and Trevor Ariza and Justin Jackson and a future first go to Oklahoma City. Okay. Derrick Jones Jr. agrees to 2 years, $19 million with Portland. Definitely a high flyer. Definitely the athleticism Portland needs. That's something they've been lacking, and they get that. James Ennis goes back to Orlando. Pretty small deal, it seems. Robin Lopez goes to Washington Wizards on seems like a minimum. He declined his deal, obviously, with the Bucks. JaMychal Green, 2 years, $15 million with the Nuggets. Seems like an attempt to replace Jeremiah Grant. Obviously, he does like a little bit of what Jeremiah Grant does, just not as good. And they get him for 7.5, so it seems fair. Jakob Poeltl is back with the Spurs for 3 years, $27 million. Pretty fair price. Mo Harkless goes to the Heat on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. I definitely think this is going to be an underrated signing. He's definitely going to fit in the rotation. He's going to help. And then we're starting to get to the good stuff today. Chris Dunn signs a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Hawks. I said the Hawks need a backup point guard, and we'll talk more about this as we get on in the video. But this is a huge deal, and they bring in some defense, which they desperately need. Chris Dunn is small, but if you wanted to run him alongside Trae Young to get some defense in your lineup, this is definitely the guy to bring it in. He's had a rough career, but if there's one thing he can do, it is play defense, and I think that's a loss for the Chicago Bulls. Bobby Portis signs 2 years, $7.5 million with the Bucks. I love this signing as a Bucks fan. Got him on a super cheap price. Seems like he wants his ring. Add some depth, which I didn't think we could do, and then another signing later. 1 minute later from the Bucks, DJ Augustin agrees 3 years, $21 million with Milwaukee, and that fills the void of George Hill being gone now. Obviously, Augustin isn't George Hill, but he's a cheaper version, $2 million a year cheaper. He's a steady shooter and a decent playmaker. I really like DJ Augustin. He was a great starter until Fultz really proved himself. I really like that. We talked about Van Vliet. We talked about Hayward. Guard Avery Bradley has agreed to leave the Lakers for Miami in a 2-year, $11.6 million deal. He went out, he got his bag. He wasn't really utilized by the Lakers a lot, but I definitely think the Lakers would have liked him back. And as of for the Heat, they keep on adding depth. Jay Crowder actually leaves the Heat. 3 years, $30 million with the Suns. Another big pickup for the Suns. I think this is, again, going to be a super underrated deal. I don't know if I would pay him $10 million a year, especially in a longer deal like 3 years. But this is definitely a great pickup for the Suns to add some defense to a lineup that might need some defense if DeAndre Ayton can't make that jump. Gary Clark agrees to a 2-year, $4.1 million deal to stay with the Magic. Okay. Jeff Green agrees to a Brooklyn Nets deal for a 1-year veterans minimum. yeah, he's friends with KD. It seems like a pretty small deal, but he'll definitely help off the bench. Raul Neto agrees to a 1-year deal with the Washington Wizards. Cool. We'll have to see what they do with John Wall. It seems like the rumor is that the John Wall-Russell Westbrook swap is going to happen. But like I said earlier, I think that trade would have already happened. But I'll definitely be reporting on it if it happens, so make sure you subscribe. If you're watching it and it's been this long and you're not subscribed, what are you doing, man? Pat Connaughton, it's said that he originally signed a 2-year, $8 million deal. That deal was thrown out, and now it's 3 years, $16 million to return to the Bucks. Again, the Bucks needed some depth, and they're getting it. Rajon Rondo, this signing is so big for me. 2 years, $15 million to the Hawks. If you guys watched my Hawks video, the one thing that was wrong with them is when Trae Young was off the court, they could not move the ball, they could not score, and they just brought in Chris Dunn to play defense, and they just brought in Rajon Rondo, one of the best facilitators, playmakers in the game, to be their bench guard. This is huge. This is huge, guys. They brought in Gallo, Chris Dunn, and Rajon Rondo. This is an A-plus free agency grade for the Atlanta Hawks. I think they are a playoff team next year. I think they're a low-seed playoff team. I'm serious. If they can stay healthy, this team is dangerous. They addressed the point of when Trae Young's off the floor, what do? They addressed it, and it's fixed, and this is huge. And I'll make that into my own video, like a separate video if you want. Paul Millsap stays with Denver on a 1-year, $10 million. Sure, seems accurate. They're going to keep that power forward depth. They lost Grant, so they spent the money on JaMychal Green and Paul Millsap. Elfrid Payton agrees to go back to the Knicks on a 1-year, $5 million deal. This is starting to just happen. Carmelo Anthony remains with the Portland Trailblazers. This is awesome. I was really hoping Portland would bring him back. They need him back, and I love to see Melo in the league. So, again, a 1-year deal is not my favorite for Melo because I want him to be under contract, but it is Melo, and I'm excited to see him back. And then Torrey Craig is now an unrestricted free agent as the Denver Nuggets pulled their offer on him. So I want to see what Denver's cooking up. I think they've got somewhere else. I don't think that they would have done that because Torrey Craig is a valuable piece. So guys, for free agency, that's all I got. If there's anything specific you guys want me to talk about, I'll definitely get into it. I've talked about some of this stuff before free agency on what I think they should do in free agency. Now it's happening. It's unfolding. There's not a ton of good free agents left, but there definitely will be stuff to report on. So let me know in the comments what you want to see and how you want me to go about it, and I'll definitely deliver it for you guys. Leave your opinions below. I want to know who you think had the best offseason so far. The Lakers, the Hawks, Charlotte. I don't know. Let me know, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.